Welcome to Book Watch, the podcast where pages meet screens. I'm your host, Sarah Day. Each week, I'll be joined by amazing guests to dive deep into the world of adaptations, comparing beloved books with their cinematic counterparts. From faithful retellings to bold reimaginings, we'll break down what worked, what didn't, and what made each adaptation unforgettable. Whether you're a bookworm, a movie buff, or both, you are in the right place. So grab your bookmark, grab your popcorn, and let's watch some books. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Book Watch. Today, I have Chris Hitlett with me, and we will be covering a very fun adaptation today. But Chris, why don't you introduce yourself to my listeners?
Hi, yeah, I'm Chris, and I'm a big fan of this podcast idea, and with going into the adaptations, because I've always loved a good adaptation of anything, a comic book, a book, and I'm a huge reader. I like movies, I'm a huge film nerd. The Marvel stuff has been my biggest thing, but dinosaurs were one of my big things back when I was younger, so I'm excited to get into this.
Yes. So speaking of dinosaurs, today's topic is Jurassic Park, the original 1993 film and 1990 book by Michael Crichton. And fun fact, I didn't know this until I started researching more for the podcast, but Michael actually conceived this idea as a screenplay. But instead, it ended up being a novel only to become a film later on.
What I learned is that it was actually while Spielberg was working with him on the show that eventually became ER. Actually, they were working on that, and then he told him about this idea, and they immediately stopped that other idea and went into this one because it sounded so cool.
Oh, and wow. Then, I didn't know that. I did know that they were working together on ER, but I didn't know that this was the connection.
Yeah, I read about that. And then James Cameron was also bidding on it, and he said he was going to make it a lot darker if he'd gotten it. So
yes,
there's some cool stuff that goes along with the foundation of this movie starting. So I'm excited to get into it more.
Yes. And of course, the film was directed by Steven Spielberg. The writers, the book was adapted by David Cope, right. But Michael was along for the ride and helped adapt it into the film. It was the highest grossing film at the time, surpassing Spielberg's own E.T., and I think some more cultural impact. I even talked to my mom about this a little bit because she read the book first and then saw the movie. I was just born in 1990, so I will not remember back when this came out, but I do. Obviously, there's still Jurassic Park films coming out.
Right.
But it definitely kind of had this resurgence of dinosaur popularity and, like I said, the franchise that we have today.
When I was 92, so the same thing for me. This one was not one that I remember actually coming out, but I remember the second one. I had some of the toys, and I remember really being into dinosaurs at that age because of the second one coming out. And this one just had a huge explosion in the 90s of popularity.
Yeah,
all throughout.
I think the first one I saw in theaters was the third one. I specifically remember seeing that in theaters. I like the third one, actually.
It's not bad.
I like them all. I'm really not a critical person, so I don't know how this podcast is going to go. But
I was actually researching the script for the fourth one as they were coming out with it, because at the time I'd just gotten in. The internet was I was getting more access to it as a young teenager, and so I was researching it, reading about all the dinosaur hybrids and stuff they were talking about at the time, and so I really got into looking into that. But then they pivoted away for a couple of years, so I was a little sad about that.
I will admit that the original trilogy is my favorite, of course. The second trilogy is okay. I still really enjoy them for what they are, but I am very much looking forward to, what is it? Dominion is the one that's coming out? No.
The new Rebirth.
Rebirth, yes, that's the one that's coming out. Very much looking forward to that. And I really have high hopes for it, and it will kind of bring people back into the Jurassic World universe.
And it seems like they're pulling from some of those fourth movie things that they didn't use, and The Lost World, and it should be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for it.
Me too. Okay, so let's get into some of the key themes from the book and how that transferred into the film.
Yeah.
One of the ones that go ahead.
No, go. I just agreeing.
Yeah. So the main ones that I kind of wrote down were corporate greed, biotechnology, and of course, chaos theory.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on how those were referenced in the book and then how the film adapted those key themes?
Yeah, the corporate greed, and I mean, was the idea really built up in the book as Hammond was just this person that saw an opportunity and he was exploiting it to make money because he had the ability to do whatever he wanted in theme park and entertainment. Whereas if he took that into the scientific world of medicine or anything else, he would have those um, political blocks and stuff like that that would make him make things cheaper. You know, the insulin of it all and all that stuff. Whereas the movie didn't really go into that as much. He was just excited about his park, and so he was arrogant and didn't have the as much of the corporate greed. Just spared no expense. You hear it all throughout the film, so a little different. And chaos theory, I felt like was in the movie, but it was so much deeper in the book. Of Malcolm was saying things every other scene of why he thought this was a bad idea, whereas in the movie he just kind of had a comment here or there, and it was good,
Comic
but it wasn't
relief,
as
really.
deep. Yeah, he was very much that, and the shirtless, what's his name, Jeff Goldblum,
Yeah. Jeff Goldblum,
sitting there
yes.
on the pad.
Yes. We
I always forget about that.
don't make me blush. um,
Young
we
Jeff
will
Goldblum.
get more into the differences in the characters because I think John Hammond is the biggest polar
Yeah,
opposite.
he's
Basically,
very
he's the
different.
biggest different in from page to screen. So I'm excited to get into that. But reading the book, this is the second time I read it for the podcast. I read it for the first time last year, and the whole opening is kind of about the biotechnology, and it's set in a different world than our world. This is set in a different universe, if you will, and just listening to all the different advancements of the biotechnology and the fact that this was written in 1990 and like reading it as an adult in 2024 and seeing kind of like how and the DNA, I mean, and making the dinosaurs in general, and just like seeing how cutting edge this was in 1990, and then seeing how it's developed in real life in real time. But it was really interesting to get all that backstory because I don't think we really dive into that into the film as much as he does in the book. And I think his messaging is a lot, like you said earlier, deeper in the book than it is in the film. The film is very much more a action adventure.
It has a lot more build up, almost a lot more of the political feel to the whole concept of the DNA and all that, and the biotech world as a whole. Have you read any other Michael Crichton before?
No, I haven't, but it's definitely on my list. I know a lot of his other books have been adapted into films as well, so
I
I
read
know that I'll be getting to some
Timeline.
others.
I read
You read
Timeline last year, which was another adaptation. I haven't watched the movie, but that had some of the same feels. Is what I was kind of going to say here. Is that it felt a little bit like the alternate world that had one thing changed of something in science, and that was way more advanced, and a company was trying to make their advantage of it. So it was interesting to see the comparison of the way he writes his books versus the way it gets portrayed sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Why do you think that this book, I mean, we already kind of talked that they were working together on ER, but why do you think, instead of why was it chosen for adaptation, because we know why they had already talked about it because they were working together on ER, but why do you think it had the cultural significance that it did, both the book and the film?
Well, dinosaurs. I mean, once you see that a live dinosaur, that CGI effect they put together on it, and why it was so. I mean, that part was revolutionary on its own, but just the
Right.
effect of people love the idea of dinosaurs as kids. It's something that draws us in, and seeing them on screen, that fear and awe of this creature that's so much bigger than us. I think that was just the biggest thing of it. Is it's amazing. It's awe inspiring.
Yes,
I
I
think that's
agree.
what
It
did
is.
it.
I mean, it still really holds up, the
It
CGI
really does.
from that film. Again, a film from the 90s, and you're comparing it 2025, and
Right.
the T-Rex still looks so good. The raptor still looks so good. The brontosauruses looked a little like they was implanted on my rewatch, but I think our TVs are just so much better
Right.
right now than they used to be. But the fact that the CGI and the dinosaurs still hold up so well is just it just speaks volumes to the quality of the film.
Definitely. I was trying to find a VHS copy of it because I have my VHS player set up, and I was really hoping to rewatch it on VHS before we did this, but I never
Oh
got it.
man, if
I
you
couldn't find
find
a copy.
yeah. Oh, okay. I was gonna
I
say you
found
need
the
to send
third.
me a
I found
picture.
the third movie, but I didn't pick it up because we were doing this one. So
I
I'll keep
haven't seen
looking.
a VHS or a DVD in a very long time.
I set mine up
um,
for Star Wars Day last year. We did a Star Wars rewatch with a bunch of friends, and I got I got the original series on like the before the special edition, so the unchanged original series, and we watched
oh
through
wow,
that on
yeah,
Star
yeah.
Wars Day.
I remember having the 3 film box, like
Hmm.
the three VHSs in the box together. I remember having that as a
Yeah.
kid and growing up. And do you remember or did you have like the rewinder? You would take
Yep.
the
We had a
VHS and
separate
put it in the
rewinder. Yep.
rewinder. Yeah.
Be kind,
Oh, the good
rewind.
old days. Yes.
So I live in Central Oregon where we have the last Blockbuster still. So we still have the Be Kind
Oh,
rewind.
wow. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Okay. Do
fun.
you go?
I haven't in a long time, but they did like a block party with some of the breweries the other not too long ago, and so we went to that.
Fun.
I have some stickers from that and things like that, some of the tumblers, and so I've been meaning to get back over there recently because it is
So
pretty
before
fun.
we get into that's really great. I
Hmm.
love that. Very very jealous because I would love to have. I think it's all just it's part of the experience, going,
Hmm.
and that's why I still love going to the movie theater because of the experience. Going to the store, picking out the movie. I always got candy and popcorn as well, and we would go home and watch the movie.
Yeah, it was a
Okay, so
cultural experience for us at our in our the '90s and the early 2000s. There,
yes, yeah, yes, I know the kids these days don't know anything.
you just don't know.
They don't know what
They're
they're
gonna choose
missing.
on Netflix.
Before we get into our character discussion, do you have any other thoughts about the book and the film and kind of the cultural impact?
I mean, I don't think so. There was we went over the main things that I had put down, and it's definitely um, yeah, it's aged differently, and I think the new ones are better for the new generation. But and you can see some of the parallels as you watch through the film. I was catching the first moments were this, and they did the same thing in the Jurassic World. So it really was the same adaptation. I feel like in Jurassic World, where they matched up scenes in a lot of ways and then expanded upon them. So that was kind of cool.
Interesting. I haven't done a rewatch of all 6 films. I do plan to do that before the new one comes out.
Yeah,
Of course, I watched the first one in preparation for this episode, but I will pay attention to that while I do my rewatch and see those comparisons and take some notes.
I picked this one up today,
Oh, you have
so
the hard copy.
I found that one, and I
I
have the 25th anniversary edition of the Jurassic Park one as well with me, so that I picked up recently.
Awesome. I do want to get the hard copy because I do really like the book,
Hmm.
as different as it is, and it's a lot. It's very hard for me to read. And again, I read it for the first time last year, and as a newer mom with the compies in the beginning,
Oh
that
yeah,
was really hard for me
that
to
was
get
tough. Yeah,
through.
that was weird. I didn't
Yeah,
remember that part because I had read it a long time ago, and then like, oh, this is a lot worse than
so
the a lot
tough.
more graphic than the book on these parts
Yes.
or
And
the
then,
movie.
well, our next episode will get more into key moments, but
Right,
briefly, real quick, the whole introduction with the little girl on the beach,
right,
and how that is how Grant gets involved almost. I know that he
mm,
had been working with Hammond, but they're asking him, this is a dinosaur, right? And that's how he's like, I need to go, I need to go on this trip to see why this dinosaur has come back,
right.
and so
It
to
was
see that
a
change.
very
Right. And
different thing compared to
yeah,
Hammond
the whole
showing
and
up in the book.
yes, exactly. Right. Okay, so anyway, speaking of Dr. Grant, let's start with Dr. Alan Grant, who is played by Sam Neill. How
Mhm.
do you think Sam portrayed Alan Grant, and what do you think of his character development in the book and in the film?
Did you know that he was supposed to be played by, or wanted to be played by Harrison Ford originally by Steven Spielberg? They wanted him to be Harrison Ford in that role because he'd just gotten done with
Interesting.
Indiana Jones and whatnot with him.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So,
Okay. How do you think how do you think the film and the franchise would have played out had Harrison Ford been Dr. Alan Grant?
well, the first thing with Harrison Ford, he saw they did a little art for him of like a dinosaur chasing him, and he said, "Yeah, this one's not for me." So Harrison Ford was out from the beginning, and then Sam Neill. I think Sam Neill's a great choice for it. I think he did a great job with the role, and that he wasn't quite the Indiana Jones. He was more just the Bones guy, so it kind of helped there to not be. Another character that's just that action hero that's coming to save the day. Even though he did a
Right.
lot of that, he wasn't trying to be that. So I think he was a little older than the character in the book as far as his physical age, but I think he portrayed that late 30s guy pretty well as the senior archaeologist that's coming in to just be a consultant and not knowing what was happening and then getting dragged into this big adventure. So I think he did a good
Mhm.
job with that.
And I think that Sam Neill is better for that reluctant father figure than
Yeah.
Harrison Ford would be. I don't know that I could see him playing it off as much.
We saw what happened with his son in the Star Wars universe.
Right. That's true. Okay, next up we have Dr. Ellie Sattler, played by Laura Dern.
So I remember her feeling like when I watched this when I was younger, she felt like she looked so much older than when I look back at it now. Like she's supposed to be in her early 20s, and when I look at
Yes.
it now, I'm like, oh yeah, that does look like someone in their early 20s in the 90s. But I look at it as a kid, and I was like, she looks a lot older than that. And
Right.
so it was weird that 90s appearance of a portrayal of people was so much different sometimes.
Right. Well, and I think that's like across the board, people like shows that came out while we were little, we still see them as being older. So like for Friends,
Mm,
I'm like I can't but like I'm older than or their
right,
age depending on where in the season. I'm like this but they still seem like they're so much older than me. And plus social media like we see the actors like now, so we're
right.
still aging. But
And
yes, it
everybody aged so
is.
much better since then. Like you watch the Golden Girls are the age that all the Friends people are now. So
I know. Yes, they've
they're
compared
all
like the Golden Girls and the new Sex and the City series on
yeah
HBO and how they're the same ages and how
weird.
drastically different they look. Yes.
But I thought
But
Laura
apart from
Dern's yeah,
appearance,
I thought she did a
yes,
great
let's talk
job
about
with
her
the
arc.
role. I think that
Yes,
she was a little less used in the
the
film. I
book.
feel like, in the book. That's what I meant. Yeah, she had a bigger part in like the action scenes. I feel like in the movie than she did in the book. Yeah,
Yes, I wish that I had I don't have a hard copy so I can't highlight, but there was a line and it's at the end of the book and the military has come or the police have come from the Costa Rica and the man asks Dr. Grant if he's in charge and Dr. Grant is like no, I'm not in
right.
charge. He asks is it Gennaro that's with them still if he's in charge and he's like no, I'm not in charge. He looks at Statler and doesn't even
Doesn't even
say
ask.
anything to
Yeah,
her, which is just like a
so,
key. It just highlights the fact that they didn't really utilize her character as much as they do in the film. Like um, she has much more to do in this film. But the fact that they used her to turn the electricity back on, I think
she kind of does
is
take
just
charge. Yeah, and she does kind of do
yes,
that
yes,
those moments of action in the scenes. Although I can't understand why everybody kept limping. I was like, I don't remember seeing that happen. Or you became like it happened to the
yeah.
boy, it happened to her. I was like, why is everybody limping
I get why Tim limps, but for her, I agree with you. I don't know why she's limping. Are you talking like during
when
that
she's running
power
away
scene? Was
from
she?
that? Yeah, I
Yes,
was like,
yes,
why
I
are you
agree with you.
limping? And I meant
Why
to
are
go
you
back and look.
limping?
Was it just that
No,
the
I question that as
thing
well.
fell or what? Yeah, I was kind of confused, but they did.
Yes,
I
so
think they did fine with her.
exactly. I really like what they did with her character in the film, and I think that they gave more emotion. Not that the book is dry by any means, but I think there's a lot more development. Like the book is a lot more about the dinosaurs and the science
Hmm.
and the corporate greed. I would say the politics about all of that. But the film, of course, is more about the character development and the arcs that they all grow through.
Right, and you have to have your heroes that make it through those moments and are your focus. Which yeah. Then they killed off certain characters that they wouldn't. You still have in the movies. It was really weird seeing some of the things they changed. And we'll get to that.
Speaking of which, yeah, Dr. Ian Malcolm, presumed dead in the book, then comes back for Lost World, but definitely alive and well at the end of the movie, which I think is fine. Like like you can't kill off the comedic relief.
Right, and he would kind of the book talked about how it would just have been the worst thing or would have been worse for for Hammond if Malcolm had died as his enemy because he was right, and then he died in the whole experience. Hammond talked about how he would have been so much more mad if he died through that whole experience. So, and then of course,
yeah,
everybody goes.
Yes, yeah, it's different and it's darker. Again, we'll probably talk about it in our next episode, but Dennis Nedry's death, book versus film, is so much more brutal. I mean, you don't even see it on screen in the film. Yeah.
The book's description that I was telling my wife about that when we were watching it last night. I was like, this is a lot worse when you read it in the book because it's just like you can hear the description of everything happening to him here, whereas it just looks like he gets some tar on him in the film. So
right, and then the actual attack happens inside the vehicle, and you don't see anything much less gruesome. I mean, it's definitely, if you're not into the brutal and gruesome things, it's a tough book to read. Like me, it was tough to get through, especially, again, like I said, with the babies in the beginning.
Right.
But it is a great book. It's solid writing, solid story.
And a lot of that came from his experience with the ER stuff. Was he had the experience of what happens to a body when it gets cut open or if something happens, and that's why he was able to create those gruesome scenes, though, which was really kind of cool to have the accurate descriptions.
Well, and it makes for great writing, but it's tough to. I remember fun story. I was talking to my mom about this, like I mentioned earlier, and she said that she was reading the book in Key West, and it was like she had all of these trees surrounding her as she's reading this book, and she's like, I could have sworn a raptor or a T-Rex head could pop through those trees and get me. It's so intense reading the book.
Definitely.
Okay, John Hammond. He is our most different character, I would say. Would you agree? Oh, and I'm sorry. Yeah. Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum. John Hammond, played by Richard Attenborough.
I think Jeff Goldblum was a great choice for Malcolm. I think he did a great job with that role. I also read that Jim Carrey had auditioned for that role, which would have been a whole different movie at that point. But apparently he had a really good audition for it. Wow. But I thought he did a good job with that.
I do not think I would like Jim Carrey in that role.
It could have been a
Harrison
serious
Ford. I could. Yeah, Harrison Ford. I could get down with, but Jim Carrey in this role. Go ahead.
No, they talked about combining the characters of Grant and Malcolm in the movie. Actually, they almost eliminated Jeff Goldblum's role altogether and just made it one character that was like he would have been the archaeologist and the chaos espouser, but they ended up going with Goldblum, which was way better. Yeah, I wouldn't have liked that.
Yeah, I agree, because you have Malcolm, who is against this, and I think even in the film you can see his apprehension. I mean, the scene in the boardroom, he really stands his ground that he's not for this. And then very much so in the book, like you said, almost every other scene he's talking about the chaos theory and how this is a really bad idea. And Dr. Grant is more, not that he's for it, but he's very in awe of how this is even happening. And this is his career, digging up the bones of these prehistoric animals and then seeing them in real life and how emotional that is.
And the research.
So combining those two characters, I just don't see how that could have worked.
No, I don't think it would have been nearly as impactful as having the two different opposing sides there.
Yes, I agree.
So on to Hammond. He was definitely, very changed. I liked the old man that was just excited about the park, but the way the book portrayed him as being just more brutal, more just out for his company and wanting to grow his business and his money and all that was a much more in-depth character. I feel like I don't see him as that old man the same way either. I see him as a little more of that like shark of a person. So
it was very hard for me to read that character in the book because I grew up with the John Hammond that we have in the film, like
right.
loving grandpa, dreamer.
So that's what you
And
picture.
yes, and to read that, and you still, I still, because I grew up with the film, I still picture as I'm reading the actors that are in the film as these characters. Lex and Tim, a little hard to do that with, but we'll get to that. So to still see loving grandpa in my mind when I'm reading, like I really had to adjust my mental image of John Hammond for the book, because I cannot let go of the movie John Hammond. I love him, poor guy. But John Hammond in the book is just, I think he is the like poster image for corporate greed.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
And he didn't, I mean, he doesn't even really care about his grandchildren, I don't think.
There was a moment, I think he says, like, can you go get them? I think it was in the movie. He says, can you please go get my grandchildren? But in the book, I feel like he didn't actually say anything like that. I don't think it was ever really expressed that he missed them even or wanted them back in here. Just an annoyance that they were here messing this up for him.
Right. And I think it's like you said annoyance. It's an annoyance that this is even happening. Like he wants to fix the problem and move on. And he doesn't even see how dire of an issue this is. He's like, okay, let's just fix it and move on so we can open this park.
And as it's happening, even he keeps saying, "Okay, we fixed this problem. Now we can move on and get going with our park. We fixed this thing. Now we can move back onto this." And it's just like, no, you don't get it. You've just killed people. You've had people have dinosaurs getting out left and right. You've got issues here and there. You don't have a computer system that works. We can't open this park.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh,
it's
but it's
bad.
all fixed. We could do this. No.
Yeah, you can't just shortcut your way through these issues, which I mean, it's clear in the book that he did take lots of shortcuts. Even hiring Nedry to begin with, I think, was a shortcut because he wasn't paying him what he should be paying, and that's why he went to the
The
other
job was
company.
so much bigger than Nedry had expected because they didn't reveal enough of what was happening to him, and so he bid this job without knowing what it was. It definitely had its greed to it that that was a corner they cut.
Well,
And
and I think Wu says the same thing about how the job that he has is not the job that he was promised.
right, and that's definitely corporate greed right there, and what happens all the
Yeah,
time in business.
yeah, big corporate America. You're right. Okay, so Tim and Lex, the grandchildren, they are ages are a little different from book to film.
Right,
Lex is the younger one in the book, and not so much toddler, but definitely
she was like 8
immature.
or 7 in the book, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, and then the reason why they did that was because the actor for Tim, which is Joseph Mazzello, and then Ariana Richards plays Lex.
right,
Joseph was in or had auditioned for another part with
for Hook,
Spielberg, and he promised that the next role would go to Joseph, and this was the next role. So
right,
because he was a little younger than Tim in the book, they just went ahead and swapped ages. However, I think their character arcs are still pretty similar.
they did,
The
yeah,
scene in where the T-Rex breaks out of the paddock is Lex is crying, he left us, which she is not bawling in the film, but she still says, he left us, and still sporty. Um, Interesting how they kind of still develop those characters for the film. But what do you think about Joseph and Ariana's performances?
They also swapped the tech thing, like where in the book, Tim was the computer hacker, and Lex is the hacker in the movie, and so that was
Mhm.
interesting. I honestly didn't care for them in either thing. They just really were an annoying part of the book and the movie to me after rewatching. I'm like, these are. I get the idea that we needed a younger perspective, but it was heartbreaking almost in the reading the book where we get the moment where the T-Rex has destroyed the car and she's huddled down in the pipes on the road or whatever, just shaking
Yes.
herself, banging her head on the pipe, and just no, no, no. It was just like, oh my goodness, this poor 8-year-old or whatever is just so traumatized now, and and he made it through this whole big dropping out of a tree, and like these poor kids.
I know. And it seems to be a recurring theme throughout the rest of the
Oh yeah,
films
yeah, yeah.
that there is some kid in need in these films.
it seems to be an interesting plot device that they've continued to use. I'm not sure if there was I guess that's what draws us in is a child is what kids love dinosaurs, and yet they're the ones being chased after by this creature, and what's going to happen there. So,
and that's probably why they keep the films a little less brutal than the book has been, because they want to appeal to the kids that like the dinosaurs and they want to come see the film, and then
they
they
want the
need to appeal
families.
to the adults too that want to go see like dinosaurs killing people.
So,
Next up, we have got Robert Muldoon, who was played by Bob Peck. So Muldoon is, I forget his actual title, but he's kind of like the ranger of the park.
right, that's right. He's the animal expert, or the safari expert they brought in from some African safari or something like that. And
Yes.
so,
Now, oh, actually, now I forget Muldoon's. He lives in the book, right? But he's not with them at the end.
um, oh, I don't remember now.
I know. I just finished this too, and now I can't
I
remember
know
what
he gets
happens to
attacked by
Muldoon.
the raptors in the movie and dies, but
Yes, he's definitely dead in the movie. Clever girl, famous line from
right,
the film. I can't
he does
remember
survive in the book.
his.
Yes,
He does. Okay, but is he
um,
not with them at the end in the helicopter?
I don't think we see him. I think there was multiple helicopters or something. They must have brought some of them
Okay,
back because I don't think we see him.
right. Okay, but pretty similar, I would think, compared to the rest of the characters. Not
Right.
not too much different, I don't think.
He was a more
And
minor character as far as the actual use of him. I mean, I think they did a good job with the you had to combine a couple characters to get that Indiana Jones feel. You had this guy that had his hat and
sure.
he had his feel of an action hero, and he's the hunter that knows how the animal thinks, and so he's looking at always worried about the raptors getting out and what would happen if the raptors could hunt them and figure out what was going on. So I think that they did a good job with his perspective on that.
Yeah, and I really like the way the actor portrayed his character as well. I
Definitely.
think Peck did a really great job.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so Donald Gennaro, tell me if you agree with this. Gennaro was played by Martin Ferrero. I think that they combined Donald Gennaro and Ed Regis as characters, because Martin's character says Gennaro, but he really has more of Ed's personality. And Ed is the lawyer,
Right.
and Gennaro is the marketing.
That's right. Okay.
So I think they kind of they combine those characters, and because Gennaro was not a bad guy in the book. He also lived to the end. He was with them at the end. He was very helpful. Ed Regis was the lawyer who left them in the car
Right.
when the T-Rex broke free. So this was a really interesting choice, and I would love to pick their brains about this one.
Well, and I felt like in the book I kept losing track of which one of them was which, and when the one ran off and was in the bushes hiding, I was like, which one is that? They were forgettable characters to me as far as which one was which. So I could see combining them being a good call in this case because you didn't need more than one of these lawyer types and in the story. I don't think it just needed to be
I agree with
lawyers need
you
to be
that I also was getting lost from characters. There are a lot of characters in the book.
right.
I just wish that they had stuck like they could have just cut Gennaro's character out and just made Martin Ferrero Ed Regis and have Ed Regis be the lawyer man.
Sure.
Because reading, much like Hammond, it's so different reading how Gennaro, I mean, he's really just there to be told what to do. He's there to count the eggs, the raptor eggs at the end, and then again, he does survive the book. And I do like that it's the kids and then the trio that survive in the film, and it's like a core little
Right.
group. And like in the book, he, like we said, we don't even know where he was at the end. Did he? Or no, sorry, that was Muldoon. So yes, we're losing track of characters, but I think they could have just got rid of the Gennaro character and made Ed Regis be the Ed Regis from the book.
Yeah, and I mean, in the book, he's the one that they use that character, one of those characters. I'm not even sure which now, to be the one that like has to take the person to in the airlift that got attacked by the raptor at the beginning. He had to see how these people got attacked and take them over to the other island to get treated and things like that. And
Yeah.
so he was utilized for these like all these administrative like he was the fall guy for a lot of it. Almost felt like the
Yeah. And it
lawyer
was
type.
Gennaro.
Yeah.
And they do kind of hint at that in the film. He's visiting the Amber location.
Right.
And but again, like that could have been a lawyer. He was like PR, I think, in the book. So I agree that they didn't need both of these roles. It was just really confusing for me to keep them separate
Mm-hmm.
as I'm reading and watching the film. But I think he did fine as a creepy lawyer leaving the kids. Oh, and another thing in the book, you kind of hear his internal monologue feeling guilty for leaving the kids in the truck, which you
Right.
don't get at all in the film. He's
No,
just a scared little man.
you needed somebody to get eaten by the T-Rex pretty early on like that, so he was a good call.
I'm gonna skip Dennis for now, even though he's next in our list. But I wanna do him last. Let's go to Ray Arnold next, played by none other than Samuel L. Jackson. I really
Hold on to
liked
your
his
butts.
take. I know, really liked his take as Ray Arnold.
Yeah.
Again, a minor character in both the book and the film, but I think he really stands out because, I mean, of course, it's Samuel L. Jackson.
That helps. That always helps when you can get Samuel Jackson to play someone that you would otherwise forgotten. But no, he did a good job with the character. I mean, it was a little unfortunate, the arm in the moment when Ellie's in the or what was
Yeah, the
Ellie is
electricity
in the
room.
electricity room and you get his arm on her shoulder and like, oh, Ray, it's you. That
No,
was pretty
not so
funny.
much. A part of
But
you.
also,
Yes.
it definitely traumatized her. You could see her leaving that room like, oh my god, what just happened?
Yes. Yes.
And so
Yes.
they did a good
Yes.
job with it, and he did a good job throughout the rest that he was in. And his attempt at unraveling the computer problem and all that was very entertaining, and so I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That brings us to Dr. Wu, who was played by B.D. Wong.
Mm-hmm.
Another minor character, but important as he is the scientist that makes this happen.
The brain behind it all.
Exactly. Yes. And he pops up from time to time in other properties.
Yeah, he's been kept around all the way through the newer Jurassic Worlds as almost like the new corporate greed person after a while.
Right.
But in this one, he just wants to do his science, and it was interesting between the book and the movie because he dies in the book, and so you don't have any chance for him to come back and cause more issues. But in the
Right.
movie, he has that conscience of back and forth a little bit. Even there, you see, well, should I be doing this? Is this right? We need to do this right. Well, I felt like. And
Okay, so now we can talk about Dennis Nedry. And the reason why I wanted to put him last is because none of this would happen. Sure, there might be other problems, but the Jurassic Park story that we know would not have happened if it wasn't for Dennis Nedry and his portrayal.
right.
So he's played by Wayne Knight, who's a recognizable face. How do you think Wayne portrayed Dennis in the film compared to his character in the book?
I mean, in the same way as you seeing John Hammond, it's the only thing I see now when I look at when I hear the character in the book, I only see his face, and so it's what I expect now. But I think he did play the character well. The person that just was greedy and needed and felt slighted and wanted to get back at his boss and get back at the company that didn't pay him enough. I think that the role was played well by him. Would that be the character or the person I would think would be doing that role nowadays? Maybe not, but someone, his appearance was definitely well done for the role he was in here.
That kind of sparked a fun little game we could play since this came out 30 years ago, rounding up a little bit. What do you think, or who do you think would play these roles? You don't have to go through the whole
Ooh.
list. You can do some of the key ones, but who would you put into these roles if they were to make Jurassic Park? Not the franchise that we have, but this is the first Jurassic Park film coming out.
It's so much harder now because they've used all these characters in the new one now that I see them as the Jurassic characters now, and And now that someone's put Jonathan Bailey in my mind for Jurassic stuff, I'm like, oh well, yeah, you got to have him in that. No, but I would definitely see like I think Tom Holland could play a good role in something like this. I'm not sure what role, but I think he would do well in something here.
I think it would be a good Ian Malcolm.
Ooh, yeah, that could actually be a lot of fun. Um, we got.
I know I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this one. I mean, this would be a lot of fun to do, but I would want to think about it a little bit more because there's a lot of characters there that I'm not sure what I'd do with them. You still got to put Samuel L. Jackson still in the Ray Arnold role. You can't replace him.
No, you're right. You can't. And I think his character at his age now would he be even better.
I'm trying to think who Nedry would be
Yeah.
played well by now. Someone who's played a bit of a more sleazy character.
Yes, I know, sleazy. And for some reason, what is his name? Adam Driver is coming to mind.
Ooh. I think my wife mentioned something like that. I think yesterday, actually, with one of these when we were watching it, she kept getting that in her head for some reason.
I think he would be good as a good Nedry. Although it's fairly small part for Adam Driver, but
I think Wayne Knight was pretty big though at the time too. So he took a pretty. I mean, I think he'd been in a lot of
true.
TV shows and stuff and was pretty popular.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, probably give him his short hair, the glasses look, and kind of make him more the computer nerd look that's just overworked and a slob. And yeah, I think that could work well.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe have him destroy a wall with the computer with a lightsaber or something, and you're there.
And I could see. Well, and he was also in a Jurassic, not a Jurassic Park film, but a prehistoric
65 or whatever recently. That was.
That's the one. Yes. Which was fun. That's a fun movie if you haven't seen it. I
didn't watch it yet, but I might check it out.
Okay. Yes, that's a fun one. Okay, so let's kind of wrap up our first part of our Jurassic Park coverage. Okay. What were your initial impressions? What made the book right for adaptation? How did the public respond? And do you think that the film was a faithful adaptation?
Well, it's always nice when books are adapted right as they're being published, because it means that there's not a lot of time for people to do that fan casting of who's going to be these roles or whether we're going to have a big difference in the characters. They just get both of them presented to them as options, and okay, that was a lot of fun. So I think it was a very good adaptation for the time. I think that the fact that they were able to get the CGI to be as good as it was, to be the best of the time, the best we'd ever seen, made a big difference. I mean, it's always weird for the actors to have to be playing to a tennis ball above them, but it seems like they all pulled it off in the end and did a good job with acting across from these non-existent creations there.
Right.
So I think they did well. Yes. The public seems to really loved it. It was obviously a huge hit, being the largest movie ever at the time. So
yeah, and we're getting our 7th film. Yeah. And we also have several shows.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And they've used it to make some of the Lego things, some other kids' shows and stuff too. And that's been kind of fun to have that lower stakes things that they brought out for kids, and kind of playing to their different markets more. And it's been a more merchandising giant.
Seen Camp Cretaceous or the sequel series to that?
I haven't watched it. I keep seeing it on there, and it kind of looks fun, but no, I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, they are fun. I have seen both. Okay. And it is fun. And it's fun to see all the Easter eggs from the show. Right. It's set during the first of the second trilogy, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, very fun series. Very fun to see all the Easter eggs that they tie into the films, both the original trilogy and the newer trilogy.
And then video games is another area that they've used this movie as a huge marketing thing for. There was obviously the arcade games that we were all familiar with going into the arcades, but they've done multiple just console games. More recently, they've had the Jurassic World Evolution games, which is basically like a Sim City but like one of the building games where you get to build out your own park, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
So it's definitely been something that's stuck around for the long haul with all these different money-making ways. So I like that.
Yes. Okay. Any other final thoughts before we sign off for our part 1?
No, it's a lot of fun. I'm excited to talk about some of the more key points next time.
Yes. All right. Well, listeners, thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week.
Thank you.
Okay. That's a wrap for today's episode of Book Watch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at Bookwatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah Day, on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the Bookwatch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/bookwatchlounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/bookwatchpodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.